This is Seif Bet of Tzidkas HaTzadik. We saw the first piece earlier in the week. This is a little bit of a longer, more complicated piece, so it'll take a little bit longer, but we'll try to be efficient. We'll try to be efficient with our time, and so we can get to the halacha part. But this is really, I'm going to say this a few times, assuming that we keep on with this for a while, but I'm going to say this is like maybe the most important piece, until I tell you that about a different piece. But that's like, it's a powerful sefer, but this is really, this is so, you'll see, I'm not overselling this. This is so powerful. You ready? Here we go. So he starts off with a pasuk in Mishlei. Brachos l'rosh tzaddik. Okay, now whatever it's supposed to mean in the actual Mishlei, he's looking at this as metaphoric. What does that mean? That brachos are to the head of the tzaddik. So he understands this as an allusion to a few things, but basically the common denominator of the whole piece, and that this is an allusion to the centrality of brachos. Brachos are not just something that a tzaddik has. They're not just one of the tools in the toolbox of the tzaddik. Brachos are l'rosh tzaddik. They're first and foremost, prominent. Okay? And what does he mean by that? So take a step back. He makes a different observation, which is going to be the real doorway. Lakach Maseches Brachos Haschala Mishisha Starim. Right? You open up the Gemara Talmud Bavli, you start Daf Yomi in a new cycle. What's the first Masechta? Brachos. There are a lot of options. Why is brachos the beginning of Shas Bavli? Why make brachos of all things? There's so many important brachos. Almost all brachos are rabbinic. It's not more important than Shabbos. It's not more important than Yom Kippur. What we're learning now in Gittin and Kiddushin, if you're doing Daf Yomi, why brachos? So it says Rav Tzadok as follows. The reason is she'ikr HaKohen, because what's coming to teach us, that pasuk we mentioned, the fact that brachos are the first Masechet, it's all coming to teach us she'ikr HaKohen, the main point of everything. And here again, you have to know when he's very poetic. He weaves psukim into. He doesn't even tell you he's quoting usually. But this is a pasuk from Divrei Hayamim that the main thing is first. This is part of the quote. Da es Elokei Avicha. Know the God of your fathers, meaning know Hashem, have a relationship with Hashem, and only afterwards, v'achar kach of Dehu. Now that's actually a pasuk. When you read that pasuk straight in Divrei Hayamim, in Chronicles, I don't know what you'd make of it, but the way he's using that verse, it's not just one verse in the Tanakh, it is super important. It's central to everything. That it all starts with Da es Elokei Avicha. Now, it sounds so obvious and simple, but if you've been Orthodox for more than a minute, you know that it's not. Right? We focus, and now's not the time to explain why, but we focus so much on mitzvos. And the Shulchan Aruch says, and the Mishnah Berurah says, and Rav Moshe Feinstein said, and the rabbi said. You know what I didn't mention once in that whole rant? God. Hashem. It's easy to lose sight of God in all the details, right? This is the perfect example of losing the forest for the proverbial trees. There's so many mitzvos, there's so many details to the mitzvos, you can forget that there's a Kadosh Baruch Hu behind. Thank you. So, says Tzadok, that's the point of all this, is that we have to remember that first comes Hashem. As he paraphrases, Tzarech Leida Lemi Ovei. All these mitzvos. I am cutting an apple this way on Shabbos. I am serving the soup this way. I am tying my shoes this way. I'm getting married this way. I'm doing all these things. Why? Who am I doing it for? A relationship with Hashem. You have to know that. And now, he says, this is the thing which if we actually will internalize this and spend a millisecond, it'll help us every time we do a mitzvah. Says the Tzadok, V'zeu habracha l'fnei kol ma'aseh. Liached kol ma'aseh l'Hashem. Right, let's be honest, and I'm including myself no less than anybody else. Hopefully we always remember to make a bracha. And when we do, right, tefillin in the morning is like maybe the best example. You have to sleep anyway, you're rushing. And again, it doesn't have to be, there's that person sometimes in shul, 8 shekels, and he's about to throw out his back, and, he's doing aerobics, and he's sincere, he already went to the mikvah, and he's going to go to the mikvah. Okay, that's an extreme. But you don't have to go, I'm saying in the best case scenario, that's wonderful. But it doesn't have to be that. It could be a millisecond. Why are we making a bracha before on tefillin? Why are you making a bracha before on the talis? Why do you make a bracha before learning? Why? So says Rav Tzadok, to remind you who you're doing it for. The bracha comes before the mitzvah for the same reason that Mesechta brachos is before everything else. Because brachos are about the relationship with Hashem, as he will develop. Continuing, he says, Kamoshe Nemar, and this is what the pasuk says, B'chol deracheha de'ehi. That's a pasuk from Proverbs, from Mishlei. You should know Hashem in all of his ways. And the Rambam expounds upon this, that B'chol deracheha de'ehi means not just only when you're doing a mitzvah, we should have an ongoing experience, familiarity, presence of Hashem. So, how you'll do that when you're just at work, that's not today's topic. But at least when we're doing mitzvahs, it's bad enough that 80%, 90% everyone's different, right? Above our day are doing other things. And how to be a religious Jew, a thoughtful, spiritual Jew, not just when you're in the synagogue, not just in the Beit Knesset, not just in the shul, but that's that Rambam, that's a huge challenge, but that's the goal. But okay, let's say a person's not on that level. I'm an accountant, I'm a lawyer, I'm a doctor, I'm a whatever. And if you think rabbis have it easier, you don't know what it means to be a rabbi. Some of you probably learned more than I did today. A lot of other things, I'm not resentful, I'm not complaining, but if you're a busy rabbi, you're doing a lot of things, not just always learning. But the bottom line is, okay, so we can't always think of Hashem. It's a goal, but let's put it on the side. But at least when we're doing the mitzvahs, how many of us even think about Hashem when we do that? Now that's a tragedy. So that's what a bracha is for. How so? He explains. So first, before he gets to that, he just explains with another great proof for this phenomenon. He says, Kamosha Amru. Furthermore, he's going to prove to this. What? The Gemara says, how old? Right? Everyone around at this table, thank God, father, parents, grandparents. At what age do you have to make your children do mitzvahs? What's the age? So the answer is, it depends on the mitzvah. There is no one age. Each mitzvah, says the Mishnah, the Gemara, is at the time that the person is able to understand it. So for example, as he's going to quote here, a famous example, says the Mishnah, at what age do you have to get your son a lulav? Well, he's old enough to know how to shake it. He's not just going to drag it around and play with the dolls. He knows what it means to have it's a mitzvah. Different ages for different mitzvahs. So now he's quoting from Brachos, Taf Memchet. He says, when benching or zimun or brachos, at what age do you make brachos? What age do you start telling your children you have to start making brachos? So what does it say in brachos, in the Masechet? Hashir ba, what's the age? Katan yodea lemi mevarchim. It does not say when the child knows how to say the words. What's the age when you start doing brachos? When a child knows to whom he's making the bracha. Masha'en came b'shar mitzvos, as he points out. This is a very sharp insight. It's not the case with other mitzvos. We don't say, start putting on tefillin when you know who you're doing tefillin for. Shake a lulav when you know. You're shaking a lulav for Hashem too. You're putting a little tefillin on for Hashem too. You're putting tzitzis on for Hashem too. But, says Rav Tzadok, you see from this, and this is, I think, a brilliant insight. He caught it. Which is that in that it's compelling proof, I think, that there's something different about brachos than all other things. While all other things in the abstract, of course, eventually are supposed to get you to Hashem, brachos is something more direct. And therefore, even if you know how to shake a lulav, but you know how to put on tefillin, or you know how to whatever, but you don't really understand Hashem yet, and you're doing it for Hashem, it's already the age. Brachos, I don't mean if you understand God. You can be 75 years old and not understand God. He's God. But not just that a kid knows how to repeat like a parrot. Right? We raise our kids. Where's Hashem? Hashem loves you. All that stuff. Once they said, "Oh, Hashem told me to make a bracha. I make a bracha for Hashem." Okay, then he makes the bracha. But you don't do that when it comes to the other things. Says our Tzadok. What do you see from this? And here's one of the money quotes. Mavur. What do you see from this? Shahabracha ikara hayidiyah l'mimavarchen. The essence of a bracha is the awareness, is the knowledge to who you are making that bracha to. Al kach nosa. That's why it was established. That's why there are brachos. And that's also why brachos is the first Masechet. Zeu hatchala haknisa l'Torah. That's why Torah Shemal Peh starts with brachos. We're about to go into, we all know, right? Torah expands, right? It's a multiplication table, right? Torah was this big, and in Torah Shebechtav. Then you hit Torah Shemal Peh, whoa! Right? One little verse from the Ten Commandments, keep Shabbos. 1,000 details and 10,000 books, and Right? So before you get into all of that, the Torah is about to expand and explode with all these details. Before any of that, Masechta Brachos. A reminder that it's all about Hashem. Don't lose sight of the forest for the trees. And he points out, for example, that the pasuk in Tehillim, Shivisi Hashem lenegdi tamid, I keep Hashem before me at all times, which a lot of shuls have that, like on their parochas or in the shul. The Ramah, I've quoted this many times, even before I knew that Tzadok said it. I made this observation, so Baruch Shekivanti. The Ramah, the Ashkenazic, posek, the Ramah in Shulchan Aruch, the very first comment in all of Shulchan Aruch, the Ramah writes this pasuk, as if to say, you're about to go into the world of Shulchan Aruch, thousands of halachos, hundreds of thousands of details, and it's good. We believe in that. We're not apologizing for that. But why? Don't let all those details blind you to the purpose of all that, which is a relationship with Hashem. And now let's just do one more point, and this is the part which... So first of all, I already told you what could be mind-blowing and life-changing is just, if you think for a millisecond before you make each bracha, what's the point? But how to drive this home, this is even more powerful. You ever notice, he points out, the bracha starts off with Baruch Ata. Right? What we call that in English, what? Second person? Right? So, Hebrew, he says, every bracha begins B'Lashon Nochach. Right? The person is present, just being to somebody. Shemiyad b'hatchalas habracha tzarech lios Hashem yisparach nochach einov kil omeid alav u'mitzavehu. The second word, Baruch Ata. I'm not talking about God, I'm talking to Him. What, are you crazy? You talk to yourself? Is that your habit? You walk around the street talking to yourself? So why say Baruch Ata? The answer is you have to have an awareness. Hashem is right there. Hashem is with you when you put on the tefillin. Hashem is with you when you put on the tzitzis. Hashem is with you when you light the Shabbos candles. Hashem is with you when you light the Chanukah. Baruch Ata. You're talking to him. He's right there. The whole purpose of the bracha is to remind you of that. But even if you forgot the abstract, okay, second word, boom. But now he ends with something that's so deep and so profound because it is a paradox. However, if the beginning of the bracha is second person, but then as we get to the end, and we get the continuation, Elokeinu, right? Then all of a sudden we switch to the third person. Bahasium Lashon Nistar. Now why is that? And this is why I love Tzadok so much and this particular piece so much. Because he's keeping it real. If we just stopped here, you might be thinking it sounds beautiful and sublime, but he must be talking about another person. Because I don't feel any of that when I make my brachos. So Tzadok says something that you could say is frustrating, but I would say it's just him being real with the reality of life. Even a person who really, really gets it, feels Hashem, and Baruch Atah, Hashem is right there, I feel it, Hashem said to me. It's too hard to, a human being can't hold on to that for too long. It could be even a matter of seconds. He's there, and now he's gone. It's a game of peekaboo. Hide and go seek. So it starts off with, second person, Baruch Atah, you're right here, Hashem, you're my best friend. Elokeinu melech haolam. Imminence and distance. And I think, if we're being honest, it's the story of our lives. And it's contained in every bracha. We didn't know that 10 minutes ago, but we know that now. Imminence and distance. For every person, certainly I'm sure at this table, and I assume way beyond, has had moments where we felt that imminence. Hashem is He's holding our hand. His hand is on my shoulder. But we have our Baruch Atah moments. And we'd love to hold on to them. And other times when we feel so distant. He might be a Melech Olam. There's 7 billion people in the world. I don't know how many hundreds of trillions of people in the history of the world. It's like a wet, slippery ball. You're like in the pool trying to play, one of those bouncy balls. Or like every time you grab it, it slips out. You have it for a split second, it slips out of your hand. Yeah, that's welcome to life. That's the bracha, Baruch Atah Hashem. And then he points out that it refers to another final metaphor. It refers to Al Gozalav Yecharaf. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that word correctly. Nogea ve'enu yodea. That's to say, Hashem is compared to, it's almost like an eagle, right? Sometimes it hovers over its chicks. It doesn't just sit there the whole time. It's closer, then it moves up. This is what life is like, right? The only time, you probably said this to your Talmidim, right? The only time the line is flat is when you're dead. But as long as you're alive, it never stays the same. There's moments of imminence, there's moments of distance. Baruch Atah, Elokeinu melech ha'olam. Isn't that awesome? I didn't oversell it.
Excuse my voice if you mind.
Please.